At the far north of Europe, there is a country where light and darkness follow rules of their own. Finland is a place where during summer, the sun can remain visible until late at night, illuminating silent lakes, endless forests, and cities that seem to slow down along with nature. In winter, the scene is reversed. The night stretches on, the sky becomes a stage for the northern lights, and silence takes on an almost tangible presence. This extreme contrast does not shape only the landscape, but also deeply influences the way people live, think, and connect with the world around them. Between the continuous glow of summer and the profound stillness of winter, Finland has built an identity rooted in balance and adaptation. Here, ancient traditions coexist with modern solutions, and everyday life is organized around the limits imposed by nature itself. Each season demands respect, patience, and preparation, revealing that nothing in this country happens by chance. To understand why light behaves in such a singular way, and how this rhythm affects everything from the climate to the people, it is necessary to look at the exact place where Finland stands in the world. Located between the Baltic Sea and the Arctic regions is the European Union country closest to the North Pole. This location causes time itself to be perceived differently. During summer, in some regions, the sun simply does not set, remaining visible even at midnight. In winter, daylight becomes brief or almost non-existent, creating long periods of twilight that transform daily routines and the rhythm of life. These phenomena are not merely natural curiosities, but forces that have shaped human behavior over generations. Finns learned to organize their days, their work, and even their social relationships around the available light. The scarcity of sunlight in winter made home interiors more welcoming, encouraged silence, and strengthened the bond with small daily rituals. In contrast, the abundance of light in summer invites outdoor social life, long walks, and a more intense relationship with the natural environment. Beyond light, the climate itself challenges expectations. Despite being so far north, Finland does not experience the extreme temperatures many imagine, thanks to the influence of maritime currents that soften the cold. Even so, the constant presence of ice, snow, and long cold seasons help shape a land where water and earth blend in a singular way. Lakes, rivers, and forests came to define not only the landscape, but the very essence of the country. Much of Finland is defined by the constant presence of water. Scattered across the country, thousands of lakes reflect the sky like natural mirrors, connected by calm rivers that cut through dense, silent forests. This abundance is not a mere geographical detail, but a central element of life in the country. Water is present in daily routines, leisure, food, and even in the way cities were built, always respecting the natural rhythm of the surroundings. During winter, this relationship takes on a new dimension. Lakes freeze, rivers become temporary pathways, and in certain regions the Baltic Sea creates almost surreal landscapes as it becomes covered in ice. Walking across surfaces that were liquid water just months earlier is not extraordinary for Finns, but part of a long-standing coexistence with extreme seasonal changes. Nature is not seen as an obstacle, but as something to be understood and followed. Surrounding this blue and white vastness, forests cover most of the territory. Trees stretch as far as the eye can see, forming one of the most well-preserved ecosystems in Europe. In winter, blanketed in snow, they create silent, nearly untouched scenes. In summer, they fill with life, scents, and light filtered through the treetops. It is within this vast and seemingly endless environment that the north of the country reveals itself as even more intense, opening space for a region where nature takes on an almost mythical character. In the far north of Finland, the landscape changes in subtle, yet profound ways. Lapland stretches across vast areas of tundra, low forests, and gentle hills, where the horizon seems wider, and the sky takes on an even more dominant role. Here, winter is long and intense, while summer, though brief, brings an almost constant light that completely alters the perception of time. It is a region where nature sets the pace with quiet authority, and everything seems to exist according to its own rhythm. During the clear winter nights, the skies of Lapland are often illuminated by the northern lights. Shades of green, violet, and blue moves slowly across the darkness, creating a spectacle that seems to suspend time itself. For those who live there, this phenomenon is not merely a visual attraction, but part of everyday life, something that reinforces the feeling of belonging to a place where the extraordinary reveals itself naturally and without spectacle. Lapland is also home to the Sami, the indigenous people of Northern Europe. For centuries, they have inhabited these Arctic lands, developing a culture deeply connected to the environment. Reindeer herding, traditional music, clothing, and language all reflect a relationship of respect and adaptation to nature. Even as the modern world brings change, the Sami preserve ancestral practices that continue to give meaning to life in such a demanding region. Beyond its cultural dimension, Lapland contains vast preserved natural areas, with national parks that protect nearly untouched landscapes. Gentle mountains, snow-covered forests, and air considered among the purest on the planet make this territory one of Europe's last great wilderness refuges. As one gradually moves south from this extreme north, the country begins to reveal another face, one where human presence becomes more visible and cities start to engage more directly with the surrounding nature. As we move away from the most isolated regions of the north, human presence becomes more visible, yet without breaking the balance with the natural environment. Finnish cities grew in a restrained way, always respecting the surrounding landscape. Even in urban centers, forests, parks, and open spaces remain part of everyday life, creating a constant sense of closeness to nature. This integration is not merely aesthetic, but reflects a conscious choice about how to live in harmony with the land. Helsinki, the capital, expresses this philosophy clearly. With a relatively small population by European standards, the city combines historic architecture, modern design, and easy access to the sea and green areas. Quiet streets, efficient public transportation, and well-planned spaces allow urban life to flow in an organized way, even during the coldest months. Winter does not bring the city to a halt, it simply changes its rhythm, showing how everything was designed to function under snow and ice. Nearby, Espoo emerges as a center of innovation and technology without losing its natural identity. The city hosts important research and educational hubs, while still preserving extensive green areas, lakes, and trails. There, technological progress coexists with a calm lifestyle, where work, study, and leisure seem to follow a more balanced pace. It is a clear example of how modernity and quality of life go hand in hand in Finland. Further inland, Tampere reveals a story of transformation. Once an industrial reference, the city reinvented itself over time, converting former factories into cultural spaces, museums, and creative centers. Built between two large lakes, it maintains a direct relationship with water, which still powers part of its infrastructure today. These cities, each in their own way, show that Finnish development did not come at the expense of a landscape, but in constant dialogue with it, a dialogue that also appears in how the country shaped its symbolic and architectural spaces. Finland's history is marked by long periods of external influence and a slow construction of its own identity. For centuries, the territory was under Swedish rule, a period during which Christianity was introduced and administrative structures began to form. While the elite adopted the Swedish language, the people kept the Finnish language alive, preserving customs and traditions that continued to develop far from centers of power. At the beginning of the 19th century, Finland came under the control of the Russian Empire and became an autonomous Grand Duchy. This period, although marked by tensions, allowed a degree of self-government and ultimately strengthened the national consciousness. It was in this context that Finnish culture began to flourish more deliberately, with advances in education, literature, and the appreciation of local identity, laying the groundwork for the desire for independence. That opportunity emerged amid the upheavals shaking Europe. In 1917, taking advantage of the collapse of the Russian Empire during the Revolution, Finland declared its independence. The birth of the new nation, however, was not simple. A brief but intense internal conflict left deep scars, yet it also solidified the determination to follow an independent path, even in the face of instability and uncertainty. This trajectory, shaped by foreign rule, political challenges, and cultural affirmation, helped form a resilient people, deeply aware of their history. Independence brought not only freedom, but also the responsibility to defend it in an increasingly tense international landscape, a challenge that would soon put the young country to the test in dramatic fashion. Only a few years after achieving independence, Finland was forced to face one of the most decisive moments in its history. With the outbreak of the Second World War, the country found itself confronting a Soviet invasion that threatened its newly gained sovereignty. The so-called Winter War revealed a striking contrast. On one side, a far greater military power; on the other, a small nation prepared to resist under extreme conditions of cold, snow, and scarcity. Despite being at a numerical and material disadvantage, the Finns managed to organize a surprisingly effective defense. Knowledge of the terrain, adaptation to the harsh climate, and strong social cohesion turned resistance into a national symbol. Although the country lost part of its territory by the end of the conflict, it preserved something even more valuable: its independence. This episode left a deep mark on the collective memory and reinforced the idea that survival required discipline, unity, and sacrifice. The post-war period brought new challenges. Beyond physical reconstruction, Finland had to cope with heavy reparations imposed by the conflict. Rather than paralyzing the country, these demands accelerated industrialization and the modernization of the economy. Factories emerged, infrastructure expanded, and society underwent rapid transformation, driven by the need to adapt to a changing world. By turning loss into learning, Finland entered a new phase of its history. The experience of war shaped not only its cautious foreign policy, but also strengthened internal values such as trust, cooperation, and long-term planning. These principles, forged in difficult times, would be directly reflected in how the country went on to organize its society and invest in its future. Over time, Finland came to realize that its greatest strength would not lie solely in physical or military resistance, but in building a strong and cohesive society. Investment in education became one of the central pillars of this project. Schools began to emphasize deep learning, student autonomy, and the development of critical citizens without excessive pressure for competition. Teachers gained prestige, trust, and freedom to teach, creating a system that prioritizes quality over quantity. This trust extends far beyond the classroom. Finnish society functions on the basis of transparent relationships and a strong sense of collective responsibility. People trust institutions, government, and one another, which reduces conflict and strengthens cooperation. This mindset is reflected in low crime rates, efficient public services, and a general sense of safety that is part of everyday life, even in larger cities. Another core value is equality. Finland was a pioneer in granting political rights to women and continues to promote policies that reduce social inequalities. Economic differences do exist, but they are softened by a system that seeks to offer similar opportunities to everyone, from childhood through adulthood. This balance contributes to a less tense society, where individual success does not depend exclusively on origin or privilege. Within this context, it is no surprise that the country frequently appears among the happiest in the world. Happiness here is not tied to excess, but to stability, well-being, and a sense of belonging. Is a way of life organized around what truly matters: time, security, human relationships, and purpose. This solid social foundation also supports how Finland structured its economy and its relationship with work, topics that become essential to understanding how the country functions as a whole. The social organization built over decades is directly reflected in how Finland structured its economy. The country developed a balanced model based on services, technology, and specialized industry, without losing sight of the well-being of its population. Work is valued, but it does not dominate people's lives. Shorter working hours, professional stability, and strong social protection help maintain a healthy balance between productivity and quality of life. Even with high taxes, the population sees clear returns in efficient public services, reinforcing trust in the system. This same logic of planning and responsibility appears in how the country approaches security. Geography and history have made prevention a quiet priority. Finland maintains one of the most extensive civil shelter networks in the world, integrated into everyday urban life and ready for use when necessary. By joining international defense alliances, the country strengthened its protection strategy without abandoning its cautious stance. Here, security is not based on fear but on preparedness, a trait that connects directly to deeper, everyday values within Finnish culture. Amid a harsh climate and long periods of darkness, Finns learn to value small rituals that bring comfort and meaning to everyday life. Among them, the sauna holds a special place. Found in homes, public buildings, and even workplaces, it is far more than a habit of hygiene or relaxation. The sauna is a space for pause, silence, and equality, where social differences fade and time seems to slow down. It is where important conversations take place, or where the simple act of sitting in silence gains meaning. The relationship with food follows the same logic of simplicity and connection to nature. Finnish cuisine reflects what the land offers in each season: fish from lakes and the sea, wild berries gathered in forests, meats from the north, and dense breads made to sustain people through the cold months. This is not a cuisine built on excess, but on dishes that warm, nourish, and carry memory. Many recipes have been passed down through generations, preserving flavors that help tell the country's story. These customs are not confined to the past. Even in a highly technological society, traditions remain alive in daily life, adapted to modern times without losing their essence. Family gatherings, respect for silence, frequent contact with nature, and a strong appreciation for free time are all part of a lifestyle that prioritizes balance. Progress did not replace roots, it learned to live alongside them. It is precisely in this blend of modernity and tradition that Finland reveals something unique: a country capable of innovating without disconnecting from itself, of moving forward without breaking what sustains it. Observing this whole nature, history, society, and culture, one arrives at a clear image of a place that has found its own form of balance, preparing the ground for a final reflection on everything that has been built so far. When all these elements are brought together, Finland reveals itself as a country built on conscious choices. Nothing there seems to be the result of chance. A respectful relationship with nature, an appreciation for silence, care for people, and long-term planning form a solid foundation that sustains society. In an environment marked by natural extremes, Finns learned that survival alone is not enough. It is necessary to live well, with dignity, purpose, and harmony. This balance does not mean the absence of challenges, but the ability to face them with calm and clarity. Finland shows that development and well-being can move forward together, that tradition and innovation do not need to compete, and that trust can serve as the foundation of an entire nation. Looking toward this northern country, one is left with the sense that other ways of organizing modern life are possible, quieter, more humane, and more deeply connected to what truly matters. Subscribe to the channel to watch more documentaries like this.